everything you see from here to those houses over there, those stone houses, like gray houses, was the concentration camp. Down and the area goes down there. That was where they lived. There's some pictures.
Is this where his manor was?
No, the manor was back on the other side of the camp. His manor was on the other side of the camp, and what? Yeah. So here you can see. Here's a picture. Here's a picture of the camp. What a camp would have looked like. That's down there in that area, all the way down there.
It's all lifted up.
Behind the mountain,
Yeah, behind that tree line there, down there.
Oh, so right now this is just like a
what was here where we're standing?
Yeah, what? So right here, we'll get to it in a second. Right, what was here where we're standing before it was a camp. Now this is something you have to understand. This is a very, very important thing. Nazis, we're not just trying to wipe out the body. They're not just trying to wipe out the soul, they're trying to wipe out Jewish memory completely in many ways. Why is that? Why do I say that? We're standing here now on 2 Jewish cemeteries. There were 2 Jewish cemeteries here that they chose purposely to set up the concentration camp on. Right? The one was right over this area here. The other one was down where that gray house, you see the gray house there at the top of it, you can see? So right below that was the funeral home. You still have the rubble from the funeral home. And actually, someone put up a tziyun, a new one for Sarah Schneer, who was buried there, the founder of Beis Yaakov. Right? These were 2 Jewish cemeteries they decided to put a concentration camp on. And what do they do when they set it up?
They use the matzevas as roads.
Yeah, they take the matzevas and they use the matzevas, the tombstones, to pave the ground. What do they do with the bodies? They dig up the bodies and smash up the bodies. That's one of the work that the workers have to do. They have to dig up the bodies and smash the bodies.
You mean the bones?
The bones, sorry, the bones. The bones.
Why?
Why? Because they're trying to wipe it all out. You can't have a concentration camp. You can have bodies start rising on, people walking on that amount of people. There were 25,000 slave laborers here at any given time. There were, how many? I just want to see how many went through here. I think, I just don't want to get it confused with the others. So they paved the roads. Sorry. That's right. 150,000 slave laborers passed through the gates here. 10,000 people are killed. So this is really an awful, awful place. The 2,000 people were killed and the liquidation of the ghetto. What do they do with those bodies? They bury the bodies in a mass pit and put the camp latrine over it. This guy was a terrible, terrible sadist.
Where was the mass grave?
Not sure exactly. I have a very
They dug it out, right?
Yeah. No, they put the, this is Galt. This is the commander, the commandant. That's the picture that the movie's based on. Right? But he had a purpose. This is a picture of a survivor. His name is Meir Eldar. It's a bit of a story, but he came. He once called me up. He said, "I hear you take groups to Poland." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I come talk to you?" I didn't know who he was. I was like, I don't know. Maybe he wants to sell me something. Who knows? Well, I'll come here. I said, "What do you want?" He says, "Well, I'm a survivor from Plaszow." So of course, I said, "Can you come to talk to me? It would be my greatest honor." And he said, "I really want you to know the real story of here and the real story of Galt." It was very important for him to do it. And when we talked, he talked a long time. And he was really wanting me to understand and pass on his message. And his message is that Galt, can I pick the pictures back, guys? I just want to show another picture. I'll give them back to you. These shootings were not random. The shootings were very, very specific. The shootings were to get as much work out of the people as possible. And what did they work at? Again, sorting stuff, all that kind of stuff, but there was specific work. One reason someone asked, why they set it up here? In addition to the factories, over this way was the quarry. Well, I'll show you in a second. Well, over this way was a quarry, right? A quarry where they dug out rocks. A lot of the work they had to do was dig out rocks. Here are women pulling huge stones. This is 20th century. You got trucks and locomotives. And they had the women pulling up the stones. So you see these hills. That's what they're doing here. Another thing he wanted me to understand about the kindergarten scene, because the kindergarten scene isn't, the impact of it he felt was not strong enough. Now, when it was the kindergarten scene, when they did the action, when they removed the children, when the kid hides in the latrine, right? What happens? Why? What did he tell me? What happens with that scene is, that happens in May of 44. Why? Well, how did children get into this camp? They snuck them in. They hid them. They were hiding them in the camp and they snuck them in, and they knew it would be very difficult to get them away from the parents. So in March of 44, what?
The parents snuck them in.
Yeah, the parents snuck them in. In March of 44, they decide to make a thing, and they tell the parents they're going to make a special block for the children. It's going to be a special kindergarten block. They plant flowers. Kids had never seen flowers. Kids who grew up in the ghettos, they never seen flowers because they, like a 5-year-old in 44 already, he was born in 39. They put playground equipment. They make the nice block very nice. They convince the parents, already March, to give over the children to this. The children are already then living there. In May of 1944, they have to clear out people from the camp. Why? Because people from Hungary are coming here. They're bringing people from Hungary, not just Auschwitz. So they want to clear out people from this camp and send them to Auschwitz and bring some Hungarians in here. So one of the first things, so they do that big selection. That's the big selection when they do in the camp. When the people were running in, they showed it in the paint scene. So for the kids, of course, they don't do a selection. And they don't need to. All the kids are in one area now. March, April, May, 3 months before they'd already been planning this. May 14th they come and they round up all the children as the parents are looking on. And as opposed to in the movie, he said, we couldn't do a thing. They're not running at the children, they're standing there, and that's the last they saw of their children. It was a very, May 5th, 14th, I believe. It was a very calculated man and a very calculated camp. And it was to squeeze as much labor out as possible. It was slave labor until people dropped. And when they dropped, then they were dead. Now, of course, the camp, as the front is approaching, the Russians are approaching, so of course they give the command to do what, like they do in all the other camps?
Liquidate it.
Liquidate, which means what with the bodies?
Burn them.
Dig them up and burn them. That's here. This is the spot where they burn the bodies.
All the kids were killed.
All the kids, like whoever they caught. I don't know if all the kids were, but many of them. What? Yeah. This is the area. The whole here areas. That's where they burn the bodies.
What year was it?
That was in 44, 45. Yeah. Right. Like late. I mean, it was 40. Yeah, you're right. It had to be fall of 44. Just after that. Now again, Goth was no longer the commander at that point. He had already been arrested.
Who arrested him?
The SS for corruption. But then they didn't, because he was a camp commandant, it wouldn't look good, so they put him in like a mental hospital, and that's where the British got hold of him in a mental hospital, and then they hung him after the war.
They hung him right here.
Yeah, they hung him here. Most of the camp commandants, they hung them on the camps that they were commandants of.
Did they do excavations here?
Not that I know of. I don't know if they did excavations. This is a picture of Schindler. This is the real Schindler.
What would you say Schindler was a visual or an opportunist?
Was he
Opportunist because he gave all the money away.
Right. I think he was a moral person. They saw at first, he didn't think anything was so bad, and then he realized how bad it was, and he woke up at one point.
I think he planned it from day in to save Jews. He tried to take over the factory so he could employ.
No, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
From the beginning, the Jews that the owners of the factory that he made the deal with, he saved them.
Yeah.
They were saved from all throughout. So I actually think the movie doesn't paint him as well as it should.
He was buried.
He does. He's baried in Har Zion, right?
He's
Mount
buried in
Zion.
Israel.
He's buried in Israel, Mount Zion. After the war, the survivors, once they start making money, some of them, they support him because he's broke.
Yeah, he's
His life.
When did he die?
I mean, you realize if everywhere that anything happened in
Joint
English too,
yeah.
they made
The joint gave him money.
more well-known